else today that we're watching?
Well, I mean, listen, the markets are on edge because Donald Trump is doing something totally absurd. For a guy that deregulated and cut taxes and basically got the economy moving in the right direction.
Talk about trade.
To sort of go into this trade fiasco, not in a way that was concerted and dealing with really bad players like China. And I'm not saying Turkey's like a perfect player.
Yeah, this is more than trade. This is obviously big-time politics, and we're not getting along.
But what I'm saying is that the markets are on edge because of Trump's trade insanity.
He uses it as a weapon. He'll use tariffs.
Think about how stupid what he said once. This is what he said. Tariffs are the greatest.
No, I know.
If you come out of any, listen, you might want to say tariffs are a necessary evil.
He's trying to use them as a weapon.
But no, but think about that. The President of the United States making that boneheaded of a comment. Tariffs are the greatest.
Well,
everybody, there's no rationale to say that is stupidity.
In that case, he was, he was talking about China, whatever he's doing.
No, but tariffs are not the greatest.
No, I mean, I'm not arguing that they are. I'm not going to sit here and I'm just saying. I mean, we could find. I was going to say we could find someone.
You have a president.
The guy we had on the other day, Speakerman, he would take the other side.
No, he wouldn't say they're the greatest. He would say that they're a necessary evil to achieve a goal.
Right.
I am telling you, when you have the President of the United States making boneheaded economic comments like that, markets will be on edge on stuff like this.
We're down on the stock market. The currency market is really paying very, very close attention. The Turkish lira has been getting hammered, and the euro's down too against the dollar. So it's a big, big market story for us. And what should happen to Turkey? Obviously, the president is not happy. This pastor that they've been holding for a couple of years, American pastor, has not been set free. So that's pretty much behind all this. There's some other complications as well. It's not like it came out of nowhere. This has been building for some time. But what happens, do you think, with regard to Turkey?
Well, Turkey's going to feel a lot of pain. What happens, they should back down. I mean, we're seeing, again, somewhat of the genius of Donald Trump. Contrary to what your previous guest, Charles, said, Donald Trump is using tariffs extremely effectively and to good purpose.
He says, here now to break all this down for us, General Jack Keane, chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, and Fox News senior strategic analyst. General, always good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you, Martha. Welcome to Washington.
Thank you. Great to be here. Let's kind of go around the horn here on what's going. First of all, with Iran. With the firing of this missile and the mobilization in exercises that they say they moved up to the summer time frame because of these sanctions. They usually do it in the fall. What do you take from that?
Well, clearly Iran is trying to send a message to the Trump team here based on the sanctions they're imposing. They fired a missile 2 to 3 weeks after the inauguration, test-fired ballistic missiles. Trump came right out, sanctioned them, and said malign behavior again is going to be worse coming from the United States. We're not going to put up with this. And they haven't done anything like that since. They're doing it now because they're pretty much under our boot when it comes to the sanctions we're imposing on them. They are significant in terms of taking them out of the dollar financial market. Implication, it may spread to the international market as well, and then shutting down gold, precious metals, aluminum, steel, graphite, coal, automobiles, a long list of things. And next, coming November is when we go after oil and the energy sector, and that is going to be very imposing on the Iranians. Their economy is already in the tank. It is struggling severely, and the real is their currency. It is almost close to being valueless, and black market is the way of doing business in Iran. So the pressure is on them, and come November it'll be on them like it's never been before.
So if they're backed into a corner and you look at the Strait of Hormuz, is that an option for them to block that?
If they block the Strait of Hormuz, we will take out literally all their military on the Strait of Hormuz. That's an act of war if they pull a stunt like that, and they know what the results of that will be. And that will push the United States into conflict. Iran does not want conflict with the United States. Remember, 38 years of conflict, all using proxies, avoiding direct confrontation with their own military. That is one thing. Despite the fact that they harass our ships, they'll fire a missile here and there, they do not want that kind of conflict.
All right, what about Turkey? Obviously, it roiled the markets today. Their economy is under tremendous pressure, and Erdogan lashing out, making phone calls to Putin. We know that Secretary Pompeo also spoke to his counterpart in Russia today. A lot of tensions there.
Yeah, Turkey's facing a political and a financial financial crisis. The political crisis really goes back to the coup of 2016, when Erdogan nearly was toppled, and not a single NATO nation, to include the United States, provided any moral support. Nobody spoke in his favor, because he's moving that regime to an authoritarian regime, moving away from democracy. And as a result of that, he came out and he said, I want the leader who was the catalyst for this coup, who resides in the United States, a guy by the name of Fethullah Gulen, to be removed. He lives in Pennsylvania. We said no. He arrested a U.S. citizen who resides in Turkey, and that's now the famous Pastor Bronson. Tragic that he is in prison. He's now under house arrest. And this dispute has really broiled over, and that is why the tariffs on aluminum, steel are being issued by the Trump administration. At a time when Turkey is in a financial crisis, with the lira, their currency, being significantly devalued against the dollar, and inflation is spiraling up out of control.
So they could significantly diffuse this situation if they sent Pastor Brunson back.
The relationship that Turkey has with Russia and also with Iran that are actually operating against our interests in Syria. So that frustration is there, and it actually goes back to ISIS. ISIS would never have moved from 600 Iraqi fighters to 14,000 in 6 months, and then in 18 months 30,000 if Erdogan didn't have his border open. Even though we were saying shut it down, even though he said I've got to shut down, he let it happen because he strategically made a serious mistake. He thought that ISIS would go against the regime and take it down. He didn't understand. ISIS was interested in its own geography, which was east in Iraq and south in Saudi Arabia.
General Jack Keane, always good to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good talking to you, Martha.